Excuse me. Excuse me. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Thank you all for coming. We'll start on time, as close as we can at least. Don't want to penalize those that came on time, as I say. It's a great crowd that we have tonight, so I think there's little doubt that we can declare that the meeting is called in a constitutional manner, and we have a quorum in attendance, so I declare the meeting open. The first item of business is to approve the agenda, which you probably received a copy of as you came in the room. You may be sharing. Is there any, could I get a motion to approve the agenda, please? Thanks, Mary. Arpon, moved, seconded. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. The next item is to approve the minutes of the last annual general meeting, which I'll ask our secretary to review with you. If you do not have a copy of them, perhaps your neighbor has.
We had at the last meeting, Gary, me, Colin, Palmer, Ted, Reese, Tom Wheeler, and about 20 other members, including Mark Baum and Palmer, Todd English, Doug Long, Linda Meisner, Garth Reese, and others. Lauren Craig, Stu Craig were not present. Meeting came to order at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. In Lauren's absence, Tom chaired the meeting. The agenda was approved, quorum was established, and the agenda was adopted.
Yeah, there you are.
I read the minutes of the 2013 AGM. It's moved by Jerry Shabbat, seconded by Ann Palmer, that the minutes be adopted, and that was carried. In the treasurer's report, in Stu's absence, Dave Reese read the report, which stated that in the fiscal year ended October 31st, 2014, the society had $368.77 in total income, $307.61 in total expenses, for net income of $61.16, total assets $131.47, and total liabilities and equity in that amount. Moved by Dave, seconded by Doug Locke, that the report be adopted, and that was carried. Next came the board of directors report, which Colin delivered, stating that since the 2013 AGM last February, the society had received its first major financial support in the form of a $500 grant from the First Credit Union and $500 from an anonymous donor. Also, in 2014, we overhauled and enlarged the website. We met with Jordan Sturt, the former mayor of Pemberton and a supporter of the third crossing. He had then become parliamentary secretary to Todd Stone, Minister of Transportation. Mr. Sturdy advised us to seriously consider staging an event likely to generate publicity for our proposal. Some months before that, Jerry Fernie, longtime mayor of Port McNeill and champion of the Island Highway, gave us the same advice. This was going to be the trek over the Lozman Pass, which did not happen for reasons that you'll hear. In response to the BC on the Moves invitation, we submitted our concept, our proposal for inclusion in the ministry's 10-year infrastructure plan, which is still in progress. We had hoped to mount an expedition to blaze a trail over the Lozman Pass, but couldn't generate enough interest at that time. We have the interest now, but are we going to be able to do it? Gary went up the Goat Main and D branch with the ATV club, reaching a spot near its end, as did Lauren and Stu on another expedition. And of course, they're all still doing that. We are currently trying to generate interest in another dogwood trek, hopefully with First Nations participation, and this is another story. Blah, blah. Colin also asked that we pause to remember Peter Hall, who was the first to identify a route over the Lozman Pass, Casement Mountain, and onto the logging roads that come up out of Squamish. Peter passed away that year, or the year previous. Moved by Colin, seconded by Art Palm, that the board's report be adopted, and that was carried. We then went into a couple of bylaw amendments, which have to be done by way of special resolution. The board moved amendments to bylaw 6 and bylaw 58 to permit lifetime membership and to allow the board to communicate with the membership by electronic mail rather than the usual. As passed in 2006, bylaw number 6 provided that the amount of the first annual membership dues must be determined by the directors, and after that, the annual membership dues must be determined at the annual general meeting of the society. Membership dues may be set at different rates for individuals, businesses, and organizations. I move, seconded by Jerry Shabbat, that bylaw 6 be amended to provide that membership dues shall be determined by the board from time to time. Such dues may be set at different rates, blah, blah, blah. Memberships shall be for the lifetime of the member or until such time as the member resigns. And that carried. The board was of the opinion then, and it is still, that maintaining the size of our membership is likely to be of greater value in achieving our objectives than any funding a membership drive to produce, whether generated from renewal of existing memberships or the addition of new ones. Sorry to put you through all this. As passed in 2006, bylaw 58 provided that the notice may be given to a member either personally or by mail to the member at the member's registered address. I moved, seconded by Gary, that bylaw 58 be amended to provide that a notice must be given to a member either personally, by mail, or electronic mail to the member at the member's registered address or electronic mail address. This brings us into the modern age and update bylaws to reflect that. The reason, of course, is most of us communicate by email. Those who prefer to receive notices by conventional mail were asked to so indicate. I'm not sure we can keep up with a lot of that. In discussion with the membership, it was suggested a link to unsubscribe be added to the bottom of our emails to provide them, to prevent them ending up as spam, and thus this was to be followed up. Okay. Gary gave a report on the Society's website, which has a totally new look. It is up and running and will be constantly updated as progress is made. That's been happening all this year. So it's now pretty good. It's got the whole business outlined with references and so forth. That brought us to the election of board of directors. The 2014 board stepped down, and Tom invited Art Palm to conduct the election of the 2015 board. Art read the report of the nominations committee, announced the candidates, and called for nominations from the floor. He then announced the officers and directors of the 2015 board as follows: President Gary Fredericks, acclaimed; Vice President David Rees, acclaimed; Secretary Richard Finesse, acclaimed; Treasurer Tom Wheeler, acclaimed; Directors Colin Palmer, Todd English, Jim Whitaker, Linda Meisner, all acclaimed. President Gary welcomed the new board and new members. reiterated the great progress made in previous years and the future work to be done, and answered questions from the floor. We adjourned at 2:25 p.m. I move the adoption of these minutes. And have a seconder. All in favor?
Thanks very much, Richard. It's now time for the President's report. Just a little comment. We had an email from one of our members tonight, a few hours before the meeting, asking how long the meeting would last tonight. It was kind of a touching question because they wanted to know that because they had to hire a babysitter to come to this meeting. So it was nice to see we're meeting up with younger people, and people find enough worth in our meeting to hire a babysitter. So thanks for coming, whoever you are. It's fair to say we had quite a year. We started out the year with great ambitions, and then the website blew up in our face, and we had to really devote a lot of time there, but we had planned and hoped that we would be able to be more active that last year. We had previously operated on about $300 or $400 of annual revenue and expenses, most of which was paid by membership fees and or just the directors throwing in some dough from time to time. And that kind of economics had prevailed for about 10 years. So we decided it was time to increase the pot, and we went after some additional funding. We wound up getting $1,200 from local donations, and we also received $1,500 from our city and regional governments. So that miscellaneous revenues brought our revenue up to $3,000 for the year, and we were off to the races. So amongst our accomplishments for the year, we received additional letters of support from Cumberland, I guess it's the town of Cumberland, and the regional district of the Comox Valley. So we now have got the regional districts covered from Alberni, Clayoquot, they're as far as Tofino, I suppose, all the way through to Lillooet, and we're happy about that. We've got many municipalities and chambers of commerce and so on in those areas as well. We're going to reach out beyond that next year. When I say we revamped our website, the technology being what it is, one day the website just disappeared. So we were in a bit of a rush to get it back up and running. We wound up spending a tremendous amount of time, but we do have a website that's pretty nice today. There's been a lot of changes to it, and I hope that you get a chance to take a look at it regularly. We added to our talent pool by seeking out some advisory people. We have some engineers who help us with various things. We've got some structural work that we did this year, thanks to Tom Hay, who's a professional engineer. We also got some work or help from Ken Dickinson, who's a civil engineer and has worked on tunnels and so on and so forth. So that became very helpful. Recently, we've had Mark Anderson helping us out. Mark, as you well may be aware, is the last senior manager of the local forest district, and that's very, very helpful. We also struck it rich with meeting up with a fellow in Norway. He happens to be the past president of the Norwegian Tunnel Building Association. He's the dean of the Faculty of Engineering at the Norwegian University, and as you know, the Norwegians are the world famous European tunnel builders, so we've got some real talent there. Let's see. We'd been concerned for a long time about being able to get people up there to see the route. And there have been a bridge across the Upper Elbert River, which had collapsed a couple of years ago under the snow loads. We wound up speaking with all kinds of people in town who pitched in very generously and given us about $12,000 worth of talent or materials and so on. We then applied to the Fall River Community Forest for the change to make up the difference, and we received a grant from them. The material was all put up there, and we had a tremendous amount of help from the ATV community and the other people who are interested in the backwoods. And all of the materials except the main beam are now in place, waiting for the spring thaw. And we expect the bridge to be operative by mid-spring, or at least very, well, should I say that? Mid-spring or very, very early summer, let's say. So that's the big event to come. In July, Colin Palmer, a member of our board, who you all know, made a presentation regarding the BC Coastal Ferry Act to the Minister of Transport. He was accompanied by his other fellow chairs of the regional district group that is active with respect to the ferry system. All these things helped us with our credibility as far as submitting the submission to BC on the Move, which which Richard talked about a minute ago. That probably in turn led us to the big surprise of the year. Suddenly on September the 15th, the minister made an announcement that there would be a study of the various road options between the lower mainland and the Sunshine Coast. We were ecstatic about it. It's not perfect. We're working on that. But the announcement was made in September, and on, I think, December the 5th, the request for proposals was issued by the Ministry of Transport. Those requests were to be submitted by the 23rd of December, and we just spoke with the ministry people this last week, and they expect that the contract award negotiations will happen as soon as the end of January, which surprises me. I don't think until March. But anyway, we've been told that, so we're geared up and ready to be dealing with the successful proponent and putting our foot forward in favor of the third crossing. I mentioned the proposal is not perfect. It focuses more on the lower mainland connection and less on the connections with Comox and the interior. We have an opportunity within the terms of reference of the RFP to put forward issues on that subject, and we're planning to do that in a grand fashion. Our town hall meeting, I see lots of familiar faces here. I think it was a great success on November 25th. It's estimated about 300 people were there, and we had very grand support. We had a lot of compliments on the meeting. Jordan Sturdy was in attendance. He's the former parliamentary secretary to the Minister of Transport, and he also has been asked by the minister to gauge public opinion and public support for the various road proposals. So we were glad that he took the trouble to get up here for that meeting, and he was favorably impressed. The most recent thing is that we have submitted a request to the Seashell Nation for endorsement and support for our road. We previously received similar support from the Swam Nation. It was our intention to hopefully get the support of Seashell and then go on to Squamish. That support was not forthcoming. They have asserted their claim to right and title of their traditional territories. So we are now in stage of discussion and negotiation with them. I'm not too sure how that's going to go. The seashell nation is known to be fairly tough to deal with. We, as a board, have tentatively thought that we will go on now and seek these endorsement of the Squamish Nation, and we're told that they are much easier to deal with, particularly these days. They've approved the LNG plant, wood fiber, and the roads to it, and so on and so forth. So we're interested to see how that all unfolds, but we're definitely on top of it. I think that concludes my report. There'll be opportunities for questions and so on in due course. Anybody have anything to add from the board at this time or later?
I don't need that.
Okay.
I just wanted to say a few words about the Seashell First Nations situation. They're not in the treaty process, but Sliammon is in the treaty process. So Sliammon in April will have a treaty. They will know exactly what their land is, they will know what their title is, they will know what their rights are, and it will be approved by the provincial legislature, and it will be approved by the federal government. Seashell are not in the treaty process. So whatever they claim, really they have to make a lot more noise than anybody else because they're not in the process. So they're a little bit more difficult to deal with, and what we're doing is we're making every effort to try and sit down with their band council instead of exchanging formal letters. And Gary has got some good contacts with the Squamish First Nation, and he wants to kind of see where they're at with this whole issue. I just want to remind you that any society, even any local government like the City of Powell River or the Powell River Regional District, we're not allowed to consult with First Nations. First Nations insist that they will only consult with the provincial government, and they will only consult with the federal government. So when we go meet with them, we're not really consulting, we're just trying to establish some kind of personal relationships, some kind of, but we've got an idea, maybe you don't agree, but let's talk about it. And that's the difference between a society like us trying to work with the First Nations. Just to give you an example, Gary and I had lunch with Clint Williams, the chief of the Sliammon Band, just the other week. And that's the kind of good relationship we have with Sliammon. And we're going to kind of see if we can get those relationships with Seashell and with Squamish. So it's not easy, but that's the best way we think we can establish relationships with them. So when the request for proposals comes out from the provincial government about our proposal, about the proposal from Anvil Island to Port Mellon to Gibsons and Seashell, and the third one from Squamish to wood fiber to Gibsons to Seashell, most of those proposals are in the Seashell First Nation traditional territory. So it's not us that are going to consult, it will be the province that is required to do it. So it's just when all this happens, if you hear any, sort of loud noises and screaming and ranting and raving, well, we don't have to worry about it. The province has the power and the authority to consult with any of the First Nations. We're just a society. But we are going to continue with our website, we're going to continue with our work and do our best to establish good relationships. As far as the ferry is concerned, in November, December, BC Ferries decided to have 50% discounts on fares for 2 weeks of each month. The traffic went up, no doubt about it. Mostly on the big ferries, not on the smaller ones. And nobody knows at this point whether they lost money at BC Ferries or whether they made any money. Now, if they made some money, that's pretty good, because we can then go to the government, when I say we, I mean local government, and say, hey, if it worked for 2 weeks of each month, why can't it work for 12 months? You know, what's the problem? So I think BC Ferries are being kind of crafty, and they're trying to find out gradually, well, is this idea about reducing fares a good thing? And if you want to know how bad the situation is with BC Ferries, you need to remember that somewhere next month, I'm sure, BC Ferries and the government are going to start telling you all, hey, the traffic went up this year. We are doing wonderfully well. Well, that was due to the tourists to start with, and the low Canadian dollar. It was due to the discounts, but it was also due to the fact that it sounds good, but in actual fact, the total traffic, passengers and vehicles for BC Ferries is the same as it was in 1991. That's how bad BC Ferries is. And those are BC Ferries statistics. They're not me dreaming this up. So if you think wonderful things are happening, we've got this great fleet out there, we've got all this crew, we've got this big organization, and the same number of people are traveling as they were in 1991, even with the increases this last summer. So don't be fooled. BC Ferries is a shipwreck. It's not going to be a shipwreck, it is a shipwreck. And that's problematic for Powell River. And this is why this society is always concerned with 24-hour access into this community. It's a serious problem for us. And it's a serious problem all over the coast. The BC Ferries is seriously affecting lots of communities. So if you think Powell River can survive without a road, you're dreaming. This community has got some serious problems, and the very system that provides us with, or supposed to provide us with, a secure transportation system is just not working. So that's my motivation, and if anybody tells you that BC Ferries is doing well, just tell them, just ask them, okay, well, why aren't all these people traveling? What's the problem? That's my 2 cents worth. I want to say that Gary has been a wonderful president this year, and the board are working well together, and I'm really impressed with what Gary's been doing and what the board have been doing to try and make things happen. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Colin, for that. That concludes the President's board report, so I'll move to adoption of my report if I may. Art, Colin, thank you. Jerry, thank you. Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you very much, it's carried. Our current treasurer, Tom Wheeler, is not here tonight, and he will not be standing for office again next year, so I'll quickly give his report, which has been alluded to already. So quickly, you may have copies in your hands, or your neighbor may. Our total revenue this year was $3,300. We would have made it more money if our plans had continued as they were, because we had hoped to make more presentations and trying to convince the government to have a study. Well, in September they decided to have a study, so we were deflected from our original plan, and we were basically consolidating the study as much as we could. So $3,300 was a good enough number for us. It came mostly from government grants and donations from the private sector. We had a pretty good year for membership fees, $320. And we started to sell some promotional items as we approached the 25th of November town hall meeting. Here it is. My wife insisted I wear this tonight together with a shirt so that you could have one of these too for only $20. And that will include new membership fees for people who have not seen fit to join so far. Anyway, the $3,300, we spent about 2/3 of that on our website. It's a terrific website. Now, all the figures that Colin's been quoting to you, you can see them right there. We have a reference library on the website with all kinds of facts and backup for what we're saying. We're being paid attention to, probably much more than we have in prior years. We're being paid attention to by the senior people in the BC government. And so we think we've made a giant step that way, and we'll keep fine-tuning that with some vigor this year. In addition to the website, we spent $600 on presentations such as this one on November 25th, other meetings that we have with the minister and so on and so forth. We made money on the ads, by the way. We paid about $10 and sell them for $20, if anybody's wondering. That's added in. And our other expenses were only $170. So basically, the people that gave us money to promote the road, their money was spent promoting the road, not covering postage stamps and whatnot. So our profit for the year was $296, bringing our equity up to $412. I move the adoption of the treasurer's report. Same too? Thank you. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. We have a couple of housekeeping items in the area of keeping our constitution and bylaws up to date. So don't go to sleep. We'll be right back. Richard.
We can dispose of these amendments because, sorry?
Be close to the mic.
Excuse me. We can dispose of these bylaw amendments very quickly if you'll just go along with me on it. There's 3 of them. The first one, we want to get rid of the words that say the first AGM must be held not more than 15 months after incorporation. That goes back to 2006, 2007, which is what strikes the words from the bylaw. So I would move that we do that. The second and the third have to do with our right to communicate electronically with the membership. We did one of them last year. This year we've got hanging over us the need to use electronic mail or text message to the ways a temporarily absent director may send a waiver of notice or withdraw. That's all. Everything remains the same except for that. So I would also move that we amend bylaw 36. Finally, there's bylaw 61, which requires us to give everybody a paper copy of the Constitution and the bylaws. The Constitution and the bylaws are set out in the About Us, under the About Us heading on the website. If you still want to get a paper copy, we will strike this from the list. But otherwise, I move that we that you ratify a motion to amend bylaw 61. So we now have the amendments bylaw 14, 36, and 61. There is nothing of any substance involved in any of them. It's just we can reach you and show you what's going on electronically rather than dishing out, paper ad infinitum. I would make those 3 motions.
Colin advised me we have to do them one at a time. Yes, sir.
Just a question regarding electronic mail. Would you continue to use paper mail for those that don't have email access?
you know, I hesitate to say no, but we have found that we just are overwhelmed and unable to keep up with the volume of paper mail. The solution seems to be that if you don't have mail, perhaps your son or daughter or somebody else that you know has, and you could perhaps use their email address and let them know that if they get something from the Third Crossing Society, to let you know. It's not the ideal democratic thing to say, but it's virtually impossible to keep up paper mail.
Thanks.
I could add to this that the member must waive his right to paper copies before this comes into effect. That is, if you want it, you get it. It remains in effect. We show you the electronic proof.
You have to speak up, please.
You are still entitled to a paper copy of the Constitution and the bylaws. That doesn't change. But it allows us, if you so wish, if you agree, that I say to you, if Gary says to you,
Into the mic.
one of us here says to you, you can find it on the website under About Us, the Constitution and the bylaws. Will that be sufficient? And if you say yes, that's all there is to it. If you say no, I sit down and run off a copy of the Constitution and the bylaws and send you those documents. That's the effect of this amendment, which I'll show you afterwards if you want to have a look.
Richard, you can put the motions one at a time.
Okay, then let's do them one at a time. Then bylaw 14, we strike the words, "The first AGM must be held not more than 15 months after incorporation." I move that those words be stricken from bylaw 14 as being
Do we have
a
a
while
seconder,
ago.
please? Seconder, thank you, Craig Brownhill. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Number 2.
This is bylaw 36, which we want to amend to allow a member, an absent director, to communicate with us by electronic mail and us to communicate with him on the fact that he's absent. That is not in that bylaw right now. That's the only addition to it. And I would move that we amend it accordingly.
Seconder, thanks, Craig. Okay. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Carried. Number 2.
Thank you very much. The third one is the copy of the Constitution and the bylaws. You say, or I am required, Gary is required to give you a paper copy of both when you join. We want to be able to direct you to read it on the website. You still have the right to that copy if you so choose. And I move that we amend bylaw 61 accordingly.
Seconder to the motion? Thank you. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Carried. Thank you.
Thanks very much. That takes care of a lot of aggravating stuff.
Okay. I'll now ask Art Palm to come forward. Art's our nomination chairman, and he will conduct the election of officers for the year. Art?
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Since we have a list of very disorganized. We have a total of 8 people for nominations this year. And as listed, President Gary Fabrice, events. I always get that name wrong. Colin Palmer as vice president, secretary Richard Finesse, and treasurer Lynn Paris. Oh, that's you. Okay. And director Todd English, Robin Murray, David Reese, and Jim Whitaker. Okay, starting from the top. Is there any further nominations for president? Going once. Going twice. Don't see anybody jumping up, so it's third time final. Congratulations, Gary. You got it there in. Vice President Colin Palmer. Going once. Going twice. Going the third time. And nobody wants this job either.
I'm second for lunch.
There you go. Secretary, Jim Furness. Richard Furness. Oh, how do you get Jimmy? Okay, Richard Furness. Going once, going twice, going final third time. He's back in the saddle again. He's actually got a very important job, believe it or not. Treasurer Lynn Paris, which is right next door to me. Any further nominations from the floor for treasurer? Going once, going twice, going a third time. Congratulations, you're treasurer again this year. Directors, Todd English, Robin Murray, Dave Reese, and Jim Whitaker. Are you all here?
Jim's not here.
Jim's not here, okay. Is there any further nominations from the floor? Now, this is a support group for the organization. And don't be scared to put your hand up because we need more people for this particular job. So is there any further nominations from the floor for director? We have Lisa standing up there. Any further nominations from the floor? Second time. Third time. I've never seen anybody so quiet in my life. Okay, well, there you go. There's your total committee for this 2016. And thank you very much for having me for a short period of time here.
Thanks very much, Art. That's the second time Art's done that for us, and thank you. We appreciate it. I would mention at this point in time that we have a capacity to have up to 6 directors. We only have 4. We seriously need help. If anybody is interested, the board has the capacity to fill the vacancy at any time. And so if there are people here who you know of, or you yourselves might be interested in serving on the board, it would be wonderful to hear from you. One of the things that I will propose to the board this year is that we hold fewer board meetings. Our board has traditionally involved some people who came to the board meetings only and other people who volunteered in a variety of capacities. We evolved those volunteer roles from volunteers who are on the board or not on the board into some sort of a loose structure. I've avoided the use of the term committee, but we have a group of volunteers, or perhaps 10 or 20, that are doing lots of things for us. And whether those folks will carry on doing those things, we will grow that group as much as we can. We need it. But the people who wish to just sit on a board and give us their wisdom and guidance won't be burdened by 12 meetings a year. It'll be a number substantially less than that. And we're hoping that we can attract some really fine talent in that manner. That talent would add to our pool of advisors who are very generous with their time for us. So I'll leave that with you. Colin, did you have anything to add to your seashell comments? Okay. Anybody else on the board who would like to comment? I will be asking Robin to speak about the website changes that are anticipated. Yes, sir?
Just like to know what the dues are now. Nobody didn't mention what the dues.
The dues are not annual dues anymore. The dues are a lifetime membership for $10. Okay? For you, Tom?
Well, I just wondered if it was clear to everybody that what the reaction that we got from the seashell to the Jervis Inlet route would also apply to everything up and down the coast of South Sound, because that's all seashell territory. So the province, if they're going to put one of those things through, whichever it is, as they've got to negotiate with the seashell, and that'll be very interesting development.
Thanks. I'm going to introduce now Robin Murray. Robin came on our board about a month ago, or 2 months ago, and has been very helpful with the website. The money that we spent on the website last year was 2/3 of the budget. That won't happen again, because number one, we've done it. Number two, we've got more help from Robin now, who's technically more competent than the rest of us. We still engage a young lady by the name of Megan, who helps us if we've got a problem, but I anticipate that that will be reduced. So I'd like to introduce Robin Murray, and he will speak to us and tell you a little bit about what we're doing with the website.
Thank you. I came on board this last month, and my background is one of the things that I do is, or have done in the past 4 or 5 years, 6 years, is build websites. And the main one that I look after is the Community Forest website. And I built that one, and so I'm quite familiar with using WordPress, which this board here had their new website built on. So jumping in and moving stuff around and putting up new videos and documents and articles and links to news stories is quite easy, and so there won't be a cost for that anymore, so I can jump in and look after that. During this past month of looking around and finding out more about the third crossing, I've come across an amazing amount of videos of the backcountry from on our side of the mountains and on the Squamish-Elbow side of the mountains of different people hiking, driving the logging roads, hiking in the Glendining Provincial Park, climbing the mountains. It's just opened up this whole amazing outdoor recreation area that most of us have probably never seen. But in these videos, a lot of people have taken these amazing videos. So we're going and it shows the backcountry of the high peaks and the little valleys and all the amazing scenery that if this highway goes through, we'll have total access to, which will open up a whole amazing outdoor recreation wonderland for everybody in the area and in the province. So I'm going to start to put some of those on the website so people can see what's going on, as well as on Facebook, where most people seem to be these days. There's 1.5 billion people on Facebook. It seems like everyone goes there, so we're going to really try and use that to connect with more people in the Squamish area, on the islands, Comox, Courtney, Campbell River, try and really open up discussions with other people on this proposed route and show them what benefit it'll be for them to move around the province and try and grow our membership for the society as well as for our Facebook page. For instance, there's 370 people yesterday who were members of their Facebook page. Today we have 376, so we're slowly growing. We'd like to increase that. If you're on Facebook and you like the page, if you can go on and invite friends to like the page, the more people we have who are on there and seeing the posts that we're putting up, which we're going to start to put up a lot more frequently, to engage people, let them know what we're doing, what's happening in the backcountry, what the government's doing, news articles that Gary may have been interviewed for, like recently one in Kamloops. It was quite a good article. There's a link up there for that.
The name of the website?
It is thirdcrossingsociety.com.
Third crossing one?
thirdcrossingsociety.com.
Oh,
And if you go on Facebook, if you just search Third Crossing, it'll bring up our page.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks a million, Robin. I encourage you to take a look at all the numbers that Colin was quoting earlier about ferry traffic and financial statements and profits of the ferries and so on. All of that stuff is in our reference library on the website. Just Google Third Crossing and we'll be number one on the page for you. So it's very easy to find wherever you're at. So also, if you'd like to pitch in, your Facebookers, we'd like to hear from you, and we have a need to have some kind of control as to what our people post on the website, on the Facebook page. Of course, other people can say whatever they want, but we'd like to make sure our people aren't misstating facts and so on. But with that proviso, if you have an interest in participating with the Facebook thing and working with us to help get that thing more lively, that would be great. I guess we've got some interesting things to deal with this year. I think there's a big year ahead of us. The study is expected to come to a conclusion in the fall, and given what the conversation was with the highways people last week or the week before, I'm expecting it to be released fairly quickly. Sometimes the government has a habit of sitting on these studies before they release the results, so I'm hoping that we'll be looking at something this year for sure. What they're going to be doing is going to be estimating costs as the number one thing, and the benefits. I'm always concerned when I see the government take on a mega project about costs, and I came across something the other day that I want to share with you. This picture, you can't see it very well from here, but it's a striking bridge that was built to join Denmark and Sweden. The bridge took 5 years to build. It was finished in 2010. It's 16 kilometers long, an 8-kilometer bridge, a 4-kilometer island, and a 4-kilometer tunnel, 16 kilometers in all. They built it for $4.3 billion. Our Port Man Bridge is now ticking in at over $3 billion. You know, for a bridge like a fraction of the size. Somehow everybody jumps on the bandwagon, everybody climbs on board and gets their 10 cents worth in, and the price goes up. I think one of our missions this year is to go for some kind of a reality check on these things. But that will be decided by our board. One of our objectives is to broaden our appeal to the province. As I mentioned earlier, we can now stretch our arms from Tofino over to Lillooet. We're now in discussions with the Thompson-Nicola Regional District, which we hope to use as a springboard to get the Cove and the Caribou and Central Interior on board. So this becomes a trans-provincial link. We'll be marketing it like a trans-provincial link. And so that is a major desire this year. We can use some help with somebody who's interested in exercising some diplomacy and helping Colin with the follow-up with these organizations like the City of Kamloops and so on and so on and so forth. We'll also develop a strategy to deal with senior government, and we probably wouldn't have been able to get in the door until this year, but now I think we've got our toe in the door for sure, and we'll seek ways to push that forward. So that leaves us with about 8 o'clock, lots of time for questions and answers. While we're listening to the questions and answers, though, I would like you to think about volunteering to help us out. If you can't help out, appropriate time. Perhaps we're going to up the budget likely to something at least double or triple last year. So if you happen to have a checkbook handy and you've got a hole in your pocket to be burned, we could use some help. It will be very helpful when we go back to see the municipalities in the next month or two to say that we've already raised from our own efforts a certain amount of money. And we'll continue to pursue that with some vigor. So if you can help out, that would be great. I think that's it. Bored you to death here probably. I'm sorry that my voice is going on and on. But it's now time to open the floor to questions. And please fire away if you have any questions. Art.
I noticed today in the paper that there was a little blurb about the third crossing. That's the kind of stuff you actually need. Little blurbs like that all the time in the paper. And that's what gives everybody a keen interest in what's going on.
Thanks. Don't hesitate to write. Anybody else? Greg Brownville?
Is there any thought of doing the hike across to Squamish again? What was it called? The Dogwood Trail again?
Yes, I think it's fair to say there is. We don't want to upset our neighbors at the Seashell Nation right now by doing anything too overt. But we're going to deal with that right away. And I should say that Craig Brownhill has been one of the more instrumental people in dealing with the bridge across the Upper Elbridge. That bridge will go in this spring, and it's only about 5 kilometers away from Losman Pass, which is the major obstacle. And so, Craig, thank you, and I made a note that you're interested in that subject. Thank you. Anybody else?
That bridge, is that the steel bridge that we saw in the photos at the
Yes, it
earlier
is.
presentation?
Yes, it is.
And how far up D Branch is that from the Goat Lane, from the valley?
It's a long way up there, and it's a rough go. Water bars galore.
Yeah, so it's not,
It's
it's barely an ATV road to get to that point, huh?
Sorry?
Is it an ATV road to get to that point, or just a trail?
No, an ATV gets up there, and we were up there, a bunch of us this spring.
So it's doable to get to that crossing
Oh, yeah.
from the main road.
You know, the last 6 or 7 kilometers, it'd be more comfortable walking it.
Sure.
But, you know,
I get it.
it's the culverts. They took the culverts out and no longer have a working road, really.
So the built bridge is just sitting there waiting to go into place?
Sorry?
The steel built bridge is sitting there waiting to be placed?
I'm aware of that. I think that's still in the welders, isn't it, right?
Yeah, the bridge is still in the welders, and we still have to do a little bit of foundation work at the site before the bridge gets flown in. It's frozen and iced over right now. That's why it's not done.
Sure.
So is that a bridge for regular traffic or just for ATVs?
It's for ATVs only.
Well, that's not gonna do much good.
It's
You want to
not,
go on the highway, you gotta,
but it'll last. We had a big decision to make there, and I thank you for your question.
yeah.
You know, if we made it another foot wider, a truck could get on it. And so could 2 trucks and 3 trucks, and sooner or later it'll be in the drink again. So we elected to build something that would last. It does get you close to the Losman Pass. It gets you close enough that you can easily walk to the Losman Pass. The wisdom of putting in a truck bridge, well, number one, it would be more costly. Probably we'd be ahead of ourselves vis-a-vis the natives over Seashell. And I think that we made the right decision here. We don't want to build a road for the province. We want the province to build a road for us.
Yes.
But it's a great move forward. You can see on the website, there's lots of pictures of the closer look at the road section. There's lots of pictures that show the ATV bridges that were there before and were washed out. Take a look, it's pretty exciting. It'll make it easy for people to get up to the Lost Pass. Yes, sir.
The bridge in the past in Slammin territory or Seashell territory?
The question is the bridge in the territory of Slammin or Seashell? It's in the Slammin territory right now, leading to the Lostman Pass, which is the dividing line between the Seashell territory and the Slammin territory. It also happens to be the dividing line between the Sunshine Coast Regional District and the Powell River Regional District. They both have the dividing line from the waters that run west to the Pacific and east to Jarvis Inlet. So Lostman Pass is right on that divide. You're welcome. Anything else?
So I want to get back on this road business here for a minute, because I'm a mountain climber. I used to go back there since the 70s. And I don't know whether you know, there was a road that went right to the base of Mount Alfred. Bob knows that too, right?
Well, I was just going to add to it though. Since we were going out there and climbing and all the rest of it,
Yeah.
what has happened is the Forest Service has gone in there and pulled all the culverts. And so because the culverts were broken up with the landslides, and they're all over the place, so a lot of the road has disappeared.
Yes.
Pretty well about 80% of it's disappeared. But ATVers and mountain bikers and et cetera have been going out there and gradually clearing it enough so they can get through. So by the same token, it's not a road that you.
No, that's my point. You know, you want a road to Squamish, you gotta build a road to Osmond Creek or beyond. You know, you want to get-
Absolutely, yeah.
We want the government to do that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Look for the old one, how much you've been building the
I talked to somebody at Western Forest Products, and it just kind of came out that to rehabilitate that road in there, it's about a $200,000 job.
So what?
That's
$200,000.
exactly.
They pulled billions of dollars out of this area over the years. What's $200,000 for them to fix up a road? That's my point.
I guess they call that road decommissioned now, so they no longer have any obligation to maintain it.
But they don't log it again.
Yeah.
Don't go back to that.
Anything else? Well, thank you very much all for coming. Once again, I'll remind you, we could use your help, we could use your money, and we're very appreciative of your attendance at the meeting tonight.
I have one more question.
Oh, yeah, sorry, one more.
How are you doing with membership?
How are we doing on membership? We're doing quite well. We had 32 new members this last year, which was pretty good. We have tried to engage as many people as we have. Some people don't want to be a member just because, so we've invented a category called Friends of the Society. And we, of course, still have the membership and, entitled to vote and be a member. We've also invented a new category which we call advocates, so that people who are really enthusiasts and are prepared to talk it up for us will become advocates and be recognized as such. We're asking people to stand up and be counted. Their names will be published as advocates on the website, and we're hopeful of getting some significant people to stand up and be counted on that one. We're also looking at volunteers in many different capacities. So whatever way you are interested in participating, whether it be membership or otherwise, there's an avenue that we hope suits everyone. Yes, ma'am.
You were talking about the fact that in dealing with this Seashell Nation, you have to tread softly. Is there anything to prevent you from organizing a group hike to go through the Lostman Pass?
We can't do it because we're advocates of a road. If hikers want to do it, it's an entirely different thing. You could talk to them, but it's one of those things, you know, if I want to go up there, I take my chances, same as you. But there's nobody up there. There's nobody in there up at the end of Jervis Inlet, from what we can see. And if you wanted to hike that, it's about, Craig, you know this better than I do, but as far as we can tell, it can actually be done from the bridge, where the bridge is. You can get all the way over there and down in one long day. So you plan about a 2 or 3 day hike down, because you don't know what you're going to run into going down. If it's choked with alder, it's going to be a long go. If it's not, and that depends on the elevation, you get down there and back in one day, or at least back up as far as, say, Ice Lake.
It's going to be an interesting day when we put the bridge in and go up to the top of the Losman Pass, and then, hello, we're here. And the Seashell Band, they're going to have to kind of think about this, and so are we. This is why we want to meet with the Band Council and tell them that, you know, it's a concept that we've got, and there is a trail that's going to end up at the top of the Losman Pass, and they're on the other side. And we're trying to enlist the help of other First Nations just to get them to be a little bit more amenable. And so that, I think the first thing we want to tell them is, we don't want to go in your reserve at the end of Seashell Inlet. And in actual fact, the real route is up the valley, above the reserve, and then down the other side. So we've got to try and explain that to them. And they claim they have sacred lands in the area, but they're on the, what I call the east side of Jarvis Inlet, and nowhere near the route. But they have some good points. You know, maybe we want to talk to them about the fact that, no, we don't want to take over the Nation Valley or the Saskatchewan Valley.
And the Nation,
yeah, I mean, we can talk about all sorts of things with them about, you know, access and etc. But it's just a matter of sitting down with them and trying to explain what might happen. I must admit, if we get the route to the top of the Losman Pass, we're not going to stop anybody going down the other side. You know, it's up to other people, but we're not in charge. And I don't think Seashell are really in charge either. They might claim it as their traditional territory, but it's like Slammin. They claim that the area on this side of the Losman Pass is their traditional territory, but they're absolutely gung-ho about this road. They really want it. So we got to get them kind of talking to Seashell as well.
Well, is Slammin looking at it as an economic benefit?
Yes.
And I mean, the Seashell, they're involved in a lot of business enterprises.
Yeah. I think partly is because they're very rich. They don't have to worry about money. They got so much money. I mean, I've heard the amount of money they get every day just from the royalties on travel. It's just phenomenal. Yeah. So if
But that's not an endless resource.
yeah, but it's the whole band. They're not. They're not in the same economic issues as Slam. So I think there's an attitude there. But a little bit worried about the Squamish in the same situation. They're a very rich band. And so sometimes they don't need to worry about things just as much as other Indian bands do. But if we get them talking to each other, that would be useful.
Well, maybe they might be interested in helping out their fellow natives at Miami.
Right. I mean, the potential for Seashell up in those mountains for, I don't know, if it was a provincial park, they could manage it. I mean, I don't care. If they want to ban hunting up in one of the valleys, fair enough, you know. I don't mind them looking after the Aboriginals up there. There's all sorts of possibilities for them to be participating on either side of the road. And my argument to them is, hey, we just want a road going through. What you do on either side of it, fair enough, you know. And if you benefit economically from it, fine. They've even, in one of their descriptions, said that they want to get people from that band back into that old village site on the top end of Jarvis Inlet. Well, they're going to need access. How are they going to live on it? You know, so we can talk to them about this kind of stuff and see if we can encourage them to, I don't know, set up a tourism resort. You know, it's up to them. They can do guided tours within the area. So you're right. We think with a lot of economic benefits for the seashore.
And tourism as such too, because this road could be doing another Manchester highway on the coast. You know, if you could use that term, I mean that should really attract people. You know, a scenic route from Powell River to Squamish, I think that would be incredible. Yeah.
If anybody has insights into this, we'd love to hear from you. We strongly suspect that this stand that the Seashell Nation have taken at this point in time is perhaps part of a larger strategy. They're making claims that it's their traditional territory and that they have title to it. The whole rights and title discussion becomes interesting. It's upsetting the forestry industry, who are, in many instances, are paying stumpage fees to both government and the natives. So it may be part of a larger strategy. So we're going to examine that with great care, diligence, and in significant consultations. Anything else? Then it's okay. It's been so much fun. I hate to call for adjournment, but Bob Eastrop has moved. We have a seconder. Thank you, everybody. Bob, we are adjourned. There will be. Are you sold out?